According to Sultan Olgan, chairman of the Central for Economic and Foreign Policy Studies in Istanbul, in the resulting is passed that Turkey will not cooperate in terms of Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Turkey has taken only token steps against Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, Argentina, Australia, the Netherlands, Poland, Russia, Sweden, Switzerland, and other states that have recognized the Armenian Genocide. According to the State Department annual terrorist report, Turkey is a safe haven for terrorists and has attracted a foreign fighter pipeline linked to terrorist plots, cells, and attacks throughout the world. Islamic subversive and terrorist activity in Turkey began in 1960s. As early as 1967 and 1973, the leaders of Hezb al-Tahrir, the Islamic Liberation Party, were imprisoned for attempting to bring the Islamic State constitution to Turkey. Islamic Jihad appeared as a real terrorist threat in 1980s after the series of assassinations of Jordanian, Saudi, and Iraqi diplomats. In October 1991, Islamic Jihad took responsibility for killing an American sergeant and murdering an Egyptian diplomat to protest the Middle East Peace Conference in Madrid. For many years, it was assumed that this group was a Lebanese Shiite terrorist organization until it was discovered that Turkish branch existed, engaging in assassination of secular intellectuals. A terrorist safe haven is an area of relative security exploited by terrorists to indoctrinate, recruit, coalesce, train, and regroup, and as well as prepare and support their operations. The terrorists in Turkey exploited electronic infrastructure such as the internet, global media, the satellite communications for recruitment, training, planning, resource transfer, and intelligence collection between among terrorists and terrorist groups. The internet also has empowered Turkey with the ability to produce and sustain its own public media outlets and to present its own distorted view of the world to further its agenda. Terrorists are placing encrypted messages in electronic files to hide photos, maps, and messages on innocent third-party websites, chat rooms, and bulletin boards. There is an ignorance of the ideological dimensions that just the terrorist is the problem, not the militant Islam. Militant Islam is deep, powerful, attractive. Unless we deal with these ideas that incite people to respond with violence, we cannot win. The war goal must be to defeat militant Islam. Here, I drew an analogy between World War II and Cold War. In 1945, we destroyed the Nazi rule. In 1991, Soviet rule imploded. It did not need it to be destroyed. It destroyed itself. In the aftermath of 1945 and 1991, the fascist and the communist ideologies became weak and marginal. We must make as our goal something similar to this of militant Islams. We must defeat it, whether with military means as in 1945 or political and economic means as in 1991 or some of both. But I don't know. The goal must be the defeat of militant and fanatic Islam, so that it no longer is the power force that it is today, and that it is marginalized like fascism and communism. The third totalitarian movement has to be defeated like the prior two. This is the right time to pass the genocide resolution in Congress and recognize that Turkey is safe haven and headquarters for all terrorist organizations, and let them know that they cannot hide behind the curtains any longer. For 3,000 years, the thriving Armenian community had existed inside the west region of Middle East, bordered by Black, Mediterranean, and Caspian Sea. The area known as Asia Minor stands at the crossroad of three continents: Europe, Asia, and Africa. Despite the repeated invasions of occupations, Armenian pride and culture identity never wavered. The snow-capped peak of Mount Ararat became its focal point, and by 600 BC, Armenia as a nation sprang out into being. Following the advent of Christianity in the early 4th century, Armenia became the very first nation to accept it as a state religion. A golden era of peace and prosperity followed, which saw the invention of the distinct alphabet, flourishing the literature, art, commerce, and unique style of architecture. By the 10th century, Armenians had established a new capital at Anib, affectionately called the City of 1,001 Churches. In the 11th century, the first Turkish invasion of the Armenian homeland occurred. Thus began several hundred years of rule by Muslim Turks. By the 16th century, Armenia had been absorbed into the vast and mighty Ottoman Empire. At its peak, this Turkish empire included much of Southeast Europe, North Africa, and almost all of the Middle East.